when we communicate with our elected officials, we are sending a very strong message that we're watching them. We know what they do. But if Ukraine were to sign any sort of agreement with Russia today, it wouldn't be only loss of four major oblasts, territories, regions. It would also be full demilitarization.
And it's like we have real people on the ground like you and me who are like completely cognizant of the fact that this is an absolute failure in global policy. As people, we don't like, need to be a top politician or a top diplomat to be able to communicate.
I,
It's people. People have been driving this war forward. Like not even our governments. Our governments have been holding us back.
this is happening to us. This is happening to our communities. So
Right.
what is happening right now is we're allowing this to happen to ourselves.
The fact that us, like our country, the US as the strongest superpower in the world, supposedly supposed to be, can that could happen on our watch. And it really like comes down to military defense and artillery to stop it. An American, and he fought in Ukraine. He's like, we figured out how to kill. You'd think that we'd figure out how to stop killing.
Stop micromanaging this war. And
Hmm.
that was the message to President Biden. Stop
Hmm.
micromanaging military flow to Ukraine. Ukraine needs the weapons right now.
We live in a democratic republic. We have the power to knock on our congressmen's doors. We have systems set up where we can call and write letters, and we need to do that when we can and if we can.
If not,
We have this is a moment in history. We've never had it before like this.
hello and welcome to Protect Ukraine Now YouTube channel. I want to offer your attention my conversation with my friend Alex Zakhvatayev. Alex just came back from Lviv, where she volunteered at Ukrainian Catholic University. She is also a very vocal supporter and advocate for Ukraine. On a number of occasions, she gave interviews on her local radio, speaking for Ukraine. She has her own blog. She writes articles for newspapers in her own town. And most of all, she is an American who could, like most people in the US, spend all of her time with her family and kids and focus on her own life. Instead, she dedicated much of her time to helping Ukraine and stopping the Russian aggressor. This recording is a casual talk between two friends catching up after a while, and I do think this is very important for all people in the US who do care for Ukraine winning in this war to listen to this conversation. Please make no mistakes. This is because of people like Alex, Ukraine still getting support from the American public and material assistance from the US government. Hi, Alex. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. I've
And
been
welcome back, of course.
Yeah, I've been here for a week now. I just came back from Lviv. I spent 3 weeks there and I volunteered with Ukrainian Catholic University. And I got to teach some English classes and I taught a course on freedom, and you helped do a lecture for that. So thank you so much. That was like really meaningful for me and my students, and I loved what we talked about. So maybe we could talk a little bit more about it today.
Great. So yeah, and I'm very glad that I was able to give some perspective to your students on some of the key founding principles of the United States of America. Without over exaggeration, we can say that the Western culture is the most successful one in the world. We're definitely enjoying democracy. We're enjoying very successful and prosperous economy, and all of that was made available by basic principles that were quite well outlined by our founding fathers. So yeah, I'm glad that your students in Ukraine are curious about specifically those topics. They are the future of Ukraine, just like any kids are future of the country they live in. And without them learning how to build a prosperous and free, of course, society, Ukraine will not be able to compete against Russia, which is obviously far from being free, but is a huge country with a lot of resources that are currently being thrown into this war economy.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and to piggyback on the democracy, and we live in a democratic republic here in the US, and um one of our traditions from our founding fathers is to kind of like the people are in control of the government, not the government in control of the people. So this topic was discussed, and also, with regard to that, to challenge the government, and that means communicating with politicians, um, you know, having petitions, befriending them, challenging them, opposing them, um, calling them out in the media, praising them when they actually get something done. This is like, to be able to have the ability to do that is like true power. To challenge power, and to um like forge a world that you want to live in, which is like, we don't want to live in war, and that's why we're here. So
Absolutely, and everything you have mentioned is oversight. We can call it oversight, and taking also part in the governance of
mhm,
of our country, ourselves, our own lives. Right, we take control over our own destiny. We help build the country where our kids and grandkids and all their future generations are going to grow. And you're absolutely correct. When we communicate with our elected officials, uh, we are sending a very strong message that we're watching them. We know what they do. We can actually bring in some details. We can say things like, thank you for placing order for this Patriot system that will arrive in 18 months from now. However, as we
mhm,
know, there are 54 older systems that were retired between 1995 and 2005, and those
mhm.
older Patriot PAC-2 systems sitting somewhere in storage collecting dust, along,
Right.
along with the missiles to those batteries. And if they're currently used for training, I believe, and if those missiles are not utilized by a certain expiration date, they would need to be demilitarized by Raytheon, the manufacturer, which is an expense for, of course, the United States. But most importantly, this is a critical equipment that Ukraine needs today. We have at least 54 systems that could be shipped. We don't know exact number, just to be very open about it. The information, of course, is open source intelligence, and we didn't have the luxury of visiting the bases and doing the actual count. However, Ukraine can be well off with 7 to 10 systems at this point. If we have about 54, could be more, right? Of Pack 2 systems only. There are also Pack 3, which are more advanced systems that can take down ballistic missiles. Those systems can be definitely, we can find 6, 7, 10 systems that can go to Ukraine, and they can go together, not one at a time when another tragedy happens.
Exactly.
A lot of what
Right.
a lot of what we do is kind of a knee-jerk reaction. There something horrible happens, and we respond by sending another small package of aid.
Another droplet of aid. I mean, like, this is exactly it. Like, when I was in Ukraine, so they lifted what we asked for them to strike at the military targets, but it was BS to even have to ask for that. And that even came with a bunch of restrictions. And they sent one Patriot missile. It's like, dude, like, they sent one battery, I think. And it's like, I don't even know, like, how to be happy about this. Like, this is pathetic, even just hearing how, like, literally they magnified its assault on Lviv. And I planned to go to Lviv knowing that, like, it had been relatively calm for like a year. And I show up and they're having like every couple of days we had like several 3-hour air raids. And it's like, you send one Patriot missile. So, yeah, I mean, I'm with you, and I love how you can explain with detail, and that's what I love about like what we're doing here is like instead of just standing with Ukraine, actually informing people of like the actual baseline minimum thing that the US government can do to shift the war in Ukraine and like the whole world's favor, basically. And without like basically just saying, you know what, the war's going nowhere, let's just settle the territories for Russia, which is a absolute flawed and failed thinking that only benefits one country, and that's Russia. So
Right.
and Russian allies, I guess.
Right, and any settlement would not work for any sort of peace or forget about benefit for Ukraine. So pretty sure that if any serious talk would emerge at this point, and you may have heard that Putin was given a big speech recently, and he was talking about going back to previous discussions or previous agreements. But if Ukraine were to sign any sort of agreement with Russia today, it wouldn't be only loss of 4 major oblasts, territories, regions. It would also be full demilitarization. So that agreement that Putin is intending to execute as any sort of settlement implies Ukraine would have to demilitarize itself, because the capabilities that would be left to Ukraine's disposal per this document wouldn't be anywhere near sufficient to defend itself in case of any sort of major war like the one happening at the moment. So
Absolutely.
it's not only like we're going to be a loss of territory, it
Mm-hmm.
will also be and to any ability to resist in future for any
Defense, yeah, it has no military compacts or agreements to actually keep Ukraine a country and safe in the future. It's a complete concession to Russia. And the fact that, there's some leaders like in the right wing, followers with the thought leadership or uh, failureship, I would say, from AmericanConservative.com, which basically say make these peace agreements without actually looking at the other options that we have in front of us, like actually following through with what we promised and equipping Ukraine. So that's what people need to understand. And I love this mission that Protect Ukraine now has, because this is like the baseline, like the first and most urgent thing that the US needs to do. And I'm happy that I found you because I had been doing a lot of volunteering, a lot of things in humanitarian work, journalism, politics, and I finally found you guys. And this is just something that like makes sense, and I know like other people are advocating it for, like Carl Larson. He was a foreign American former fighter, a former US military veteran who fought in Ukraine for over a year, and he has the Ukraine Defense Support over there in the west of our country stationed. And like people like this are fighting, like standing up to the government and saying like baseline, like this is what the US needs to do to push us forward. Do not talk to us about anything else until we follow through with these objectives. And really, like at the end of the day, you have people on the right rushing to say, okay, what is winning? What is this? We need to scale back our definition of winning, because we just got to concede to Russia. And it's like we have real people on the ground like you and me who are like completely cognizant of the fact that this is an absolute failure in global policy, but we're still here tonight at 10 p.m. I don't know what your time is right now, but it's 10 p.m. My time.
Yeah, I'm 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Somewhat
All
close.
right. All right, you're a baby. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like, like talking about these things and calling out our leaders, pushing these things, and like trying to, I just got back from Ukraine, imparting this knowledge on people. So like we can really do things as people. We don't like, need to be a top politician or a top diplomat to be able to communicate this. And we have people just like us who found what they can do and what skills that they could bring to do something here. And I think that's been like the most amazing part for me, is like meeting such unique people along this journey who just tried to find something to do and to be effective.
Absolutely, and I have to say, working with other people who uh, help Ukraine, advocate for Ukraine is probably the most heartwarming experience. And this goes back to the basic concepts of the relationship between your communities and your government, where it's up to the people to decide what their priorities are and solve their own problems. We're big boys and girls. We don't need a babysitter government to tell us what to do.
Right.
And so
We tell them what to do.
and then immediately people got together and they ship various forms of assistance,
Unbelievable.
generators, medications, tourniquets, you name it, right?
It's people. People have been driving this war forward. Like not even our governments. Our governments have been holding us back, if anything.
They certainly play this as a sort of a game, which may work out in certain instances, but when it gets to a wartime and people are dying, this is just not acceptable.
No.
And there are a couple of points I think I need to underscore here. When wars like the one in Ukraine or in Israel for that matter breaks out, uh, that's not a bad thing happening to someone else somewhere remote. This is happening to us. This is happening to our communities. We have this global outreach. Everyone has that ability, like you just went to Ukraine, right?
Mhm.
A lot of us travel to Europe, to Asia, to various countries. But it's not even about the fact that we can relate to so many places outside of our immediate residence.
Mhm.
It's also that bad things can always come to where you are
Mhm.
if you allow that to happen. So
Right.
what is happening right now is we're allowing this to happen to ourselves, because this
Mhm.
is us who end up dealing with the consequences of letting bad actors uh,
Mhm.
operate without consequences, enjoy impunity like they do at the moment. And
Mhm.
I, sooner or later, this problem will come and haunt us at home. It, I'm not obviously trying to sell any sort of future, is especially a grim future. I'm not a future teller, but as analyst, as a person who works with information and data, and is able to look back into history, we just know what happens when certain bad things are permitted to take place.
Mhm.
So sooner or later, it's going to be our problem.
Yeah, it's precedence, like a country, like, I think you said it before, like, our country is built on precedence, and precedence built on precedence. And I was just in Ukraine. It's a very civilized, high culture, and very friendly people, very relatable. I felt safer, believe it or not, walking around the streets of Ukraine as a foreign woman than I do in like many parts of like my immediate town. Um, the fact that there needs to be war in the sky, and Ukraine's armed forces are like our first line of defense there, like literally was keeping me safe over there. Shooting down like Kinzhal missiles is like, why are we living in a world like this? And so, like, yeah, like you said, like the concept of global society, it took me like over a day to like get to Ukraine just like that, and to be with like people and friends and just like normal people like you and me in Ukraine. Why do we feel the need to be so disconnected and to push that away? Like that doesn't matter, because like you said, even if you don't have any relatives or friends in Ukraine, the fact that us, like our country, the US, is the strongest superpower in the world, supposedly supposed to be, can that could happen on our watch. And it really like comes down to military defense and artillery to stop it. And that's what we have, and we can stop it. Is absolutely a precedent that's being set right now, that that's okay to happen. And if it's okay to happen there, you know, it's becoming completely normalized there. There's nothing to say that it couldn't creep closer and closer to more places, and it's just really just too late. some people say, oh, we need to stop it before it's too late. It's too late. Too many people have died, and we need to stop the killing. And like somebody said to me, a soldier, he's actually an American and he fought in Ukraine. He's like, we figured out how to kill. You'd think that we'd figure out how to stop killing. And like that's what we need. We need to defend our countries, and country really just comes down to defense.
Yeah, and the only way you can stop the murder of innocent people is by disabling bad actors from doing so. Obviously, this happens because there's interest in starting wars, and the only way to prevent wars is by removing the incentive from bad actors. So for Ukraine, that means it needs to be a free country with its own weapons, with its own economy that is able to provide security to itself. Similar to Israel, in many ways, it's a small country and it's still able to stand against the enemies that surrounds it.
Yes.
For as far as our advocacy goes, of course, we are going to continue here in the United States to do everything possible and impossible to assure Ukraine is supported militarily. As far as Ukrainians are concerned, of course, they need to be doing the same thing. They need to be building their own weapons. They need their own manufacturing industry. This is possible. This can be done. And again, I can't tell you the future, but I can tell you the past. And in Nazi Germany, for example, had over 90% of their GDP, I think 94, don't quote me on that number, aimed to their war efforts. The rest was for the civil needs of the Germany at that time. So most of the German economy was working towards the war effort, and Ukraine really needs to boost that percentage. And of course, this is
Hmm.
something they need to figure out on their own. And I'm glad there are people like you and so many others who go to Ukraine and teach them important lessons. And the sooner Ukrainians can adapt to a free and independent, of course, from the government. When we say free, of course, like,
Hmm.
what do we mean by free, right? Free
Yeah.
from our government. No,
Yeah.
who else, right? Who else?
Hmm.
Yeah. So Ukrainians need. Well, how about a different government, a different structure, a different relationship between Ukrainians and our government? It's up to them to figure this out. Our job over here is to help, and maybe to end this on a positive note. I had recently 3 meetings in different congressional offices. There are probably a few more in the pipeline, and we sat just like you and I talking right now over a Zoom meeting with Congress people and their staff and their legislative assistants. And we talked about priorities for Ukraine, things that we need to do to help Ukraine today. And I want to go over those real quickly because every person listening to this recording can pick up their phone and call their senators and a representative. Every person has 2 senators, 1 representative. That's only 3 people, and each phone call at most is going to take 5 minutes of your time, and most of us can afford that sort of commitment. So 15 minutes once a week, you can call your senators, you can call your
Hmm.
representatives, You can tell them that Ukraine is being plummeted by guided bombs, light bombs. They're older style bombs that been launched from far away, and Ukraine needs those Patriot systems to take out the jets, the bombers that deploy those bombs. Ukraine needs no restrictions over hitting Russian territory. Of course, Russia doesn't have any restrictions imposed, and this is
Right.
quite honestly, that's absurd that we tell Ukrainians where not to hit, given that every time they use American long range weapons, that would be against,
Beyond absurd.
it would be very against very much legit military targets. The meetings I was into, check this out, Alex. We were very open about saying stop micromanaging this war. And that was the message to President Biden. Stop micromanaging military flow to Ukraine. Ukraine needs the weapons right now. In the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we were sending roughly over $1 billion worth of equipment every month. At the moment, we're down to like 500 million. Given the delay in the beginning of the year, a huge 5 to 6 months delay, unacceptable,
Right.
unacceptably long time. And now that we're finally able to continue with assistance, after the supposed $60 billion have passed, we are now shipping 500 million a month worth of military aid. And this is just unacceptable. We should not be micromanaging this flow.
Yeah.
We also talked about major non-NATO ally status. That's not quite as good as being a NATO member, but you can have access to defense contractors here in the United States. So if Ukraine gets that status, they will be able to enjoy this enhanced cooperation in defense and security matters, which is very important, priority access to excess defense articles. This EDA program we talked about so many
You touched on
times,
it, yeah.
and these are very critical things that Ukraine needs like right now. And
Right now, I mean, like, especially, like, don't even talk about, like, any ending the war without this firmly in place. This needs to be in place right now because, again, like, there can be no end of war until Ukraine can defend its own country, and they need these EDAs and the NATO military agreements, non-NATO.
major non-NATO ally status, yes.
And then what was the third initiative that you and advocates are working on right now?
Well, I guess the last thing to mention about current advocacy priorities, as well, I guess many of us know, we operate on a fiscal year, which is all finance. Our finances do. We do not, but our finances are allocated from October till September of the following year. So 2024 fiscal year will end in September, and usually I know it didn't happen last year, but usually the US government prepares its next year budget over summer, late summer, and in September usually again we have a budget that is signed into the law, and it becomes the next year's budget. And for that reason, it's very important for us to advocate for the second military we're mostly concerned about military aspect, of course, but supplemental bill for Ukraine. To some people, it may appear that we just got $61 billion, and how come we're asking for
Right.
more money again? And I think it's important to explain that to anyone listening to this video, and this is how I explain that in my meetings with senators and representatives. And the way I explain it, this is not just a bill for Ukraine, number one. In fact, we have seen in the last supplemental that the funds are equally split between the United States military needs and the needs of Ukraine. So out of $61 billion, only 30 were for Ukraine, out of which 20 were military assistance. So when we come and ask for the next supplemental, we keep in mind that it will only be available when these funds run out. But then again, those military allocation, they're not as significant as some people believe. They're 1/3 of the overall bill is the military aid to Ukraine. Second, the other half is money for the United States military. And these are very, very critical funding. We're not spending that money because the Pentagon decided they need something new and shiny. There's actual strong need to boost our defenses. As a world security, global security is deteriorated as it is. And like final thing I want to say about this $61 billion package. This is not a military package for Ukraine. This is a military package for Ukraine and the United States.
Yeah.
And when we omit that part, when we don't say out loud that this is actually a dual purpose package, we make it someone else's problem, someone else's, in particular Ukraine. So this is strictly for Ukraine. We don't care about this supplemental. We don't care about these funds. If it passes, that's for the benefit of Ukraine. If it doesn't, well, it's again too bad for Ukraine. The reality is we are the beneficiaries of this supplemental too, and this cannot be and should not be taken lightly.
No, absolutely not. And when I told people this in Ukraine, whether it be just normal everyday Ukrainians or, foreigners who are doing work or students who are studying law. I mean, it's a very poignant detail for them that, oh, wow, that 61 billion wasn't all to Ukraine. So I think this part needs to be driven home for Ukrainians and Americans who advocate for Ukraine. Because this is going to be key for us to be able to make it easier going forward. And we can't have the politicians lying and playing games and saying that they've given 61 billion to Ukraine just a couple months ago. No, you did not. Okay. I'm not even sure that we've given a total of 61 billion to Ukraine yet. If we have, it's probably around there. Certainly not in military aid just yet. So correct me if I'm wrong.
I can verify it for you.
Right. I mean, we could always verify those numbers, but it's important to make sure the politicians don't lie because that's what they use against us. Now, if people are surprised and shocked to hear this, then it means it's something that we need to be telling them because our politicians aren't. And it goes back to the advocacy. You and I and a lot of our friends like to nerd out about this stuff, but I've been able to talk about this with just like in passing. Hey, you know that 61 billion aid package? Yeah, that whole thing didn't actually go to Ukraine. And it's really, really easy to unpack. But these are like the little things that actually matter, not only in politics, but like whether somebody decides if they want to join the military or not. Because it's like if we don't really have the help that they say that they're giving, and the future doesn't look bright, then why would I join the military and fight? So because it's like it's almost like you're we can't fight with our bare hands. So it's like we need to be able to explain these things, and not only explain them, but make sure our government is moving the needle and being effective on increasing the military aid, increasing the military confidence that Ukraine can achieve its achievable goals.
Absolutely. And we can verify those numbers by going to protectukrainenow.org. I pulled it up real quickly while you were talking. So on this screen, let's see what we see. So from 175 billion of total supplementals, $101 billion were actually for Ukraine since the beginning of this war, of course, out of which $23 billion, and I'm rounding up, were for humanitarian and economic assistance. And we can assume this is actual dollars. They went to Ukrainian government, and it was used to support the country afloat. And that's actual cash going to Ukraine. The military aspect is $58 billion. That's how much was allocated. And to see how much of it was delivered, we're going to scroll down to this detailed flow chart. It's a little confusing, perhaps, at the beginning, but I guess what you want to focus on is this delivered portion over here. And of course, the delivered, and again, this is strictly military. The delivered is a composite of PDA and USAI and a little bit of FMF funds. The reason this chart is so complicated is because some of these funds were bundled up for other countries as well. Like, for example, see like this PDA
Yeah,
account
yeah,
for Ukraine,
I
these are
remember that.
right. So we need to draw these fancy charts to explain how the money flows.
Right.
But
$27.
to answer your question, we have delivered to Ukraine roughly $27 billion, and the rest are either still PDA available. Some of USAI funds, like over here, $15 billion over here, they are pending a contract, meaning they not even under a contract yet. So, and we talked about it in the past, this is just money sitting in the bank account, waiting for a contract to be executed. And these are actual contracted funds. So, and of course, there's still some funds available under PDA. So that's roughly the breakdown.
It's pathetic. I mean, we have not even delivered a full $30 billion worth of military equipment since 2022 to Ukraine. And you know, like on the way back from Ukraine, you know, talk about like explaining this 61 billion to people. on the way back, it took us 13 hours across the border. There's some holdups at the border, and I actually happened to be seated next to a foreign fighter. He's a Brazilian medic. He had to shoot an AK. He went on shock missions. He called it a death camp over there, and I asked him, I'm like, how are you outgunned? Like, how was it over there? And he's like, there's missiles coming from Russia. Meanwhile, they have AK-47s, and they couldn't. I said, well, what about on the Ukrainian side? Were they firing missiles behind you, for backup? And he's like, most of the times it was like impossible for them to get it going. Like, and I'm like, why were you so outgunned? Why did it take so much for Ukraine to start up to fire those missiles? And he just said to me, to be honest, till this day, I don't even know. And we're literally talking on our phone because he speaks Portuguese and a little bit of Spanish and a mix of Ukrainian and Spanish, just communicating. And but I know why, and why the Ukrainians didn't fire those missiles, because they just don't have them, and they're so short on them that they can't just go ahead and fire them because they're so scarce right now. And it's absolutely unacceptable for the men on the front to be going in with their bare hands and AK-74s. And these are really primitive conditions to be able to defend human life. And it really comes down to these disgraceful politics and the fact that our country needs to put the money that the Ukrainian military they don't want money. They want equipment. They want to work with the earth, not with cash. And Americans need to understand this. And people in Ukraine need to know the truth, and they need to educate themselves that we just, oh, we're so thankful for the US. We're so thankful. That's not what I'm saying. I'll be thankful when the war is over, but right now we have a commitment to Ukraine, and we haven't given them what they need to defend innocent civilian life, and to not leave our military men who are sacrificing their lives bare without enough substantial weapons to outgun the Russians. It's absolutely unacceptable. And it's a tragedy that's happening on our watches, which is why us as Americans need to advocate for this, because we live in a democratic republic. We have the power to knock on our congressmen's doors. We have systems set up where we can call and write letters, and we need to do that when we can and if we can.
So let's end this on a positive note, right? Because what you just said is actually great news. They're awesome news. They're like the best news you can get on any given day, because not every person, not in every country in the world can have the luxury of calling their government officials. In many cases, they're not elected officials, and definitely they cannot call and communicate their priorities and their needs like we can. And this is wonderful that we have that ability. We can change so many things. Americans, I guess, most of us grew up on watching superhero movies when one person can go ahead and change the world. And you know what? The history, you don't need Hollywood. The history is full of examples when single person have done so much for their country, or for a specific cause, that it changed changed the lives of people around him, changed the course of even the course of the history.
Contagious. It's contagious what we can do as people to inspire each other to change.
But and I guess we just spoke about the heroism, the heroes, and why do we have heroes? Why do we have people who need to go out of their way, risk their lives, go above and beyond? Well, and the reason some people need to be heroes is because we don't have enough regular people do regular normal things to keep um, our countries healthy, our
Mhm.
political systems, our relationship between countries
Right.
healthy. So, in order for single people
Gee.
not to have to be heroes, not to have to
Mhm.
lose their lives and do
Mhm.
what we later would be remembering as heroic things. All of us just need to do a simple act that is expected from a citizen, a person who is responsible about part in the democratic society. So if we do not participate in democracy, there's no democracy.
That's when wars happen and when heroes die.
We're going to have democracy only on paper, right? If we don't take part in it. So,
Right.
we have to participate. We have to be responsible.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the world is a continuum of chaos and peace, and when things are peaceful, people become lazy. They don't practice what the privileges that we have, and that's when the bad actors take control and shove us into chaos, and which is basically what has happened. So now, yeah, I mean, haven't thought about it that way before, but it's true now that we have society has global society has become so indifferent that we have brought ourselves to this war now, and now we owe it to the people fighting it and dying for it to just call out the leaders. Like, it's the most basic thing you could do. You don't have to fight in Ukraine. You don't have to be a humanitarian. You don't have to join the army. Just like pick up the phone and call and tell them to give the defense systems so just people can stop dying. And that's what we can do. And we do owe it to them, for the people who are educated on these matters. It doesn't take you don't have to finish a college degree in it. Like, you just see what's happening in the world and you say, this is wrong. Call out your leaders and stop it and hold them accountable.
Absolutely. And on this positive, again, I insist
Try and keep it so
this is a
positive.
positive note.
This is a moment in history. We've never had it before like this. It is really, I mean, like, it's so bad. It's gotten so bad, but we have this right now, and there's no telling how much longer we can have a system where we can reach out like this.
That's definitely the most critical moment of our lifetime, and we should take this seriously, and we need to be very responsible about it, because right now we defining how the future uh, is going to look like, a very near future that affects us and our children. So please call your senators, call your representatives. They need to hear from you. We do it all the time, and we always get very positive feedback. Let me assure you that those people are very nice, and they don't bite.
Yeah, make some friends.
There you go.
Okay.
Alex, it was great seeing you. I'm glad you're back safe home, and uh, I'll look forward to more talks.
Thank you so much. Me too. I really, really do. Thank you so much for everything and educating me. Bye bye.
Thank you, Alex.